BJ from Game Gumbo here on another episode of Gumbo Live. I've got Jonny Pac, the designer of is it Coloma?
Yeah, Coloma.
Coloma, and I've got a picture of it on the screen right here. Love the look. I watched your development as it was going through, because you post a lot on social media. You bring in the community in some of the decisions, and the box cover has, if I remember right, has changed pretty significantly over the time, with a different focus at least, right?
I think I've seen a few drafts of this one, but I believe that this version that we're looking at has been the only one that Final Frontier has put out there. So
okay.
The things that we kind of change is, a little bit of the geography. I wanted to make sure it was a little more accurate to the place, because you actually, if you're looking at the box cover here, you can kind of see what is Sutter's Mill off to the side there with the water running under it. And you can still visit that because they actually reconstructed that mill. And that's the mill where it was owned by John Sutter, and they were milling wood, of course, with it. And one of his people was James Marshall, who was out there working, looked through the water and was like, "What's that shiny stuff?" And it was, a giant gold nugget. And that's really what kicked off the gold rush in 1848 and started the 1849 gold rush. And basically, California wouldn't be the way it is, and a lot of things wouldn't be the way they were without that discovery at that point. So we wanted to feature that as kind of one of the main things in the game, especially, like I said, knowing that people could, if they wanted to, got the itch, they could go on a vacation and go visit some of the things that are featured on this box cover. So,
well, you got a lot of people excited just with that box art. There's Verla saying it's gorgeous. She wants to learn more. But let's unpack a little bit about the game itself. I've got another picture here. Walk us through. What are we looking at with Coloma? How many people does it play? What are we looking at?
So this one is like I said, the game Hangtown I made was kind of a vanity run, 1,200 copies, one and done. I'm not going to publish it or release the rights to it again, per se. Sure. What this was kind of built off the backbones of some of that. When a European publisher contacted me when Hangtown first came out, asking if they could license it. And it was so text heavy that I felt like, wouldn't it be cool to do the Euro thing where it mainly revolves around icons? So I started working into it, and it didn't work out. So what I ended up creating was a different game altogether, based around some of the very core mechanics of that one, but otherwise has a very, very different experience in what you're doing. So that's where you're going to see that little center rondelle wheel type thing. It's an action selector, and we'd say that those things are common. What you do with this game is different, and the feel of it's different. But overall, I'd say that there's action selection with this rondelle, and then you are building a tableau of sorts in front of you that allows you to bend the rules of the game, as we all love. So so this one was inspired by driving a long car drive, and all of a sudden light goes off in your head. That I'm a big fan of like game theory and behavioral economics. So I was thinking of something where it's like, so wouldn't it be cool if you select actions, like say Puerto Rico, Race for the Galaxy, something like that. But if a bunch of people were to select the same one, it is a little bit less good than had you selected it alone. And so that was kind of the core mechanism of this, is what we're using in the Gold Rush terms of boom and bust. So if you're able to go somewhere that isn't groupthink where everybody goes, you're likely to get a slightly better payoff. If you want to think analogous to the when you choose a role in Puerto Rico, you get a little bit of a better version of that. In this sense, you get the better version as long as you don't go where everybody else does. So it's kind of like the bonus is there by default, but you lose the bonus if you group think. And so you're trying to get in the head of each other and think, where do I think somebody's going to go? I think they have enough resources to build. So if I go to build, what if we build at the same time, and then we can build less? And so you're trying to think, oh, maybe if I sandbag a little bit and go over here and get more supplies, let them go build. Then if I go build, maybe they won't be there when I build. Now this really scales well once it hits the larger player counts, because a lot of this stuff is done simultaneously. A lot of returns can be, you're selecting simultaneously, and then it's resolved in kind of a Race for the Galaxy type of, the phase 1 things, the phase 2 things. Sure. And people can kind of go ahead and resolve their turns without stepping all over each other in a lot of those cases. So it kind of shines at that larger player count, and it also works that people can I'll be selecting, and the choice matrix becomes different at different scales. Like in a 3-player game, we can really start to mind read each other and see the game state for what it is, and be very careful about your placement. Whereas, say, in a 6-player game, it becomes a little more Wild West. You're kind of like, Well, but you have more wiggle room because it really takes a majority of people all thinking the same. So breaking away is still about the same, as long as you really just don't get what do I think the entire group wants the most right now. And so you're really kind of playing a head game and reading the game state. And so it's not one of these multiplayer solitaire games, as they call them. But on the back end of it, you are building that tableau and getting your victory points. And this gets you points for this. And, your engine's going to allow you to manipulate resources to help you, turn into victory points and things like that.
Now, a Euro that has a lot of player interaction, that gets me excited. I like those. Sean Jones says, "Hey, you sold me at like Race for the Galaxy."
yeah. So it's what Rahdo called Hangtown kind of the Race for the Galaxy of the Wild West, and I would believe that this game is standing on the shoulders of that and has gone on and beyond that with the talent of the developers on their end and the art direction that they're doing. This game is going to be even better. So I'm really excited about what they've done with it on their end, because working with the designers who are also the owners of the company who designed Rise to Nobility, they designed Robin Hood and all that. So I'm working with some really sharp guys as we develop this. It's been a cool experience to see how it shakes out. So I'm excited.
I've got a solo shot of the cards, and this is what you were telling me before. In Hangtown, it was text telling you how the card was going to work. Tell me about what the developers and yourself was able to do with these cards.
Yeah, so basically, in Hangtown, you would say to go to one of these action sites, and they would activate all your cards, and then it would tell you draw a card from your deck and then do this with it and do all this stuff, and they'd tell you what to do. Here you would go to the place where there's a shovel icon, and then if you go there, you get the little $2 in this case, the poker chip with $2. Now if you go there and you're with a bunch of other people, you don't also get the wheelbarrow action on that card. So if you're allowed to go there by yourself or with fewer people than the group, and you boom per se, you're going to be able to get the shovel action and the wheelbarrow action. So you're going to get a net of their combined of $3, right? So if you go there and it busts, then you're just going to get the $2 off that card. So you'd be looking at, if I had both those cards in my tableau, I'd be getting, and I boomed, I'd get 3 meeples and $3, which would be cool. Now if I busted, I'd only get the top bonus, which is the 2 meeples and $2. So it's just a little bit less, but in a Euro game, that little bit less might be the linchpin between making your next epic move. And so that's kind of the gist of it. So but
it's not a zero sum. At Stone Age, one of the things that frustrates new players in Stone Age, you could get 0 if you don't roll the dice right.
Yeah. There's nothing like that, and I know that there's fear with some simultaneous action selection games. Like I want to say Pirates Cove. It's like if you go where somebody else goes, like you are hosed, and so is the person who also went there. And you duke it out until you have nothing, and your ships are sinking, and the smoke's flying, and then somebody else goes to an island by themselves and gets all the treasure. It's kind of what it's angry making. And so this game doesn't have that. It's gentle enough in the Care Bear sense that, if you go somewhere and you bust, what your floor is. You can go there and be like, if I boom, this is awesome, but I can get away with the floor on this thing. And, it's just upward potential. And then in certain cases, you might still go somewhere and go, oh, there's a linchpin. I need to boom in order to do the next big epic move. But that's a decision you'll know you're going in for at the game. You won't have big surprises that'll break your heart.
Well, the Name Father says this action selection space ain't big enough for both of us. And that's kind of the motto of the game,
Can we
right?
put that on the back of the box,
Listen, Steve's got 1 million of them. You can definitely put it on the back of the box.
I love it.
So Verla says the iconography looks pretty intuitive. Always appreciate it. And that's what you were going for, right? Intuitive iconography.
Yeah, we are spending so much time on that kind of thing because, I love Race for the Galaxy and I can read it fluently, as well as New Frontiers and Jump Drive and all that.
Right.
But I also fear that if every game did that right now, it would be like learning a new language for every single game out there. And I feel like I would like to people to be able to understand icons, but not have to, actually learn to read them in a very difficult way. So this is very much matching stuff. Like if I go to shovels, I get shovel things, and what that is will be right there in front of you.
And so the standees that we're seeing in the solo picture right now, that's the different player characters or their workers?
Yeah, so that's your main pioneers. So in this case, if I were the little frontiersman there, that's like the yellow guy, he's that would be representing my decision more or less. So I'd be selecting on the dial where I want to go, and I would select a number which corresponds to that site. And then once we all reveal and turn those face up, the red player would go over there and the yellow here, and we'd all look at that. And in this instance, we'd look over and see which place has the most pioneers on it, and we'd see that the blue and the green pioneer have the most. And so the red pioneer would get, their status, the yellow as well. And then where the green and blue one, there's a little swivel piece that would cover up the inner bonus part, which in this case would cover up what they couldn't do, and they'd only be allowed to do the things that's in the remaining part that you can see visually. And so then we'd take our turns clockwise around that, resolving all of our actions. Then we remove those pioneers, reselect with the dial, kind of rinse and repeat from there.
And that is Coloma, out on Kickstarter, coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, so February 20th. So again, we're really pushing to meet those deadlines and get all of our ducks in a row for that side, and then we'll be doing a little more, polishing up on the back end between that and when it goes to the printer.
Any surprises you have for what's going to happen with the Kickstarter campaign? Any secrets you could tell us?
All I know is Final Frontier makes beautiful, beautiful deluxe products, and you can expect that from the game because it's just what they do. And so I never want to take that for granted from them, but they're just incredible with their stuff. So if you've played Robin Hood or Rise of Nobility and you just unbox that and lay down on the table, it's just like, oh my goodness, these guys thought of making everything beautiful to touch, to look at, and it's just everywhere. So, and they're kind of doing that same treatment throughout this, and they'll kind of wait, and then they'll be like, you ready? And then they'll show me something, and it's just like this, it's just beautiful. And you're like, oh my goodness, like you should see my, scribbled Sharpie prototype, or, bad computer graphics.
You must be really excited to be working with a quality company like that.
Oh, they're fantastic. They're great guys. They're funny too. So it's like we're always, I'm up all night working with them because it's daytime there, and I start my meetings with them usually around midnight or 1 a.m. and they go till sometimes sun up. And we just have a good time. We're all kind of on the same wavelength and fixing problems as fast as we notice them. And it's been a
Where
great
are they located?
process. They're in Macedonia, actually. Yeah, that's their spot. But they've definitely done a great job of having a international presence, because I didn't know where they were until I started really looking into them, and I'd heard of their entire catalog before then. So
Steve says it's all about the behavioral economics.
Yeah, love that.
Once you have something, you hate giving it up, the endowment effect.
Exactly.
And human beings are loss averse. Even though we've got something in it, we don't want to give it up, even if it may get worse down the road, right?
Yep. Yeah, so he's exactly right. Yeah, what he's saying in that post is exactly, I'm always very, very aware of loss aversion and how to kind of, remedy that, because if you
or use it to your advantage as a designer.
Yeah. So it's all in there, and so those are some of my favorite topics. I totally geek out on that stuff and reading about it all the time, and trying to bring it into this and look at the psychology of players as they're playing, and seeing how they emotionally react to doing all these things. And if something seems punishing, even though I say, well, technically it's not, because this is the equivalent of this, I don't have a right to say technically it's not, because they're entitled to their feelings and they're going to play from those feeling standpoints. And so I want to do what they call in behavioral economics, basically nudge people into doing things that they actually want to do themselves, but still give them the freedom to diverge and make their own choices. And the game will not play itself without you in the cockpit. So.
Bill Lassick says those surprise production reveal moments are always awesome, and he knows that, working his way through with Koi. All right, so that's Coloma coming out on Kickstarter on February 20th, right?
Yeah.
And Drake says it's quick too. The last couple of times he played, it clocked under an hour. So we got a power hour game.
We do. That's my
1 hour wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. You always use the term 1 hour wonder, and I use it all the time too. And there's a lot of games that play in under an hour, but the problem is they're not wonders. And then there's a lot of games that play that are a wonder, and they're a lot more than an hour. And if it's a learning game or you're playing with some slower groups or a large group, they can stretch out very long. And so that's kind of, I feel like the holy grail right now is to make the 1 hour wonder game. If you can get that deep experience and all that, and it didn't eat up your entire night to do it, and you didn't have to forego another game you also wanted to play to do it, that's a really good thing. And then to always know the other side is like, the game's under an hour, but was it underwhelming? Then it still needs some work at that point.
That's the sweet spot. And in all fairness, I didn't come up with a term. That's Chris Kirkman from Dice Hate Me Games. He loves that 1 hour wonder, but I love it. I think it's perfect. I'm the kind of guy, I don't mind playing a 2.5 hour game, but I would rather play 3 or 4 1 hour games if they're meaty. Like you said, I don't want a game that gives me a 10 or 15 minutes experience that just stretches out into 1 hour. I found that Villainous is dangerously close to being a little too long for what it's worth, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to play it at a smaller play count, but I played it at 4 and I've had people play it. Wait, I played it at 5, 4 or 5. And everybody that plays it in that range, it lasts a little too long. So I want that sweet spot that you said. A 1 hour game that feels satisfying at the end of the 1 hour.
Right. That's the holy grail. So basically everything I'm working on right now, it's like that is the goal. I mean, it could be a 2 hour game easily. Hangtown was definitely an hour and a half, 2 hour game, and it went on 6 rounds. This one is 3 rounds. I mean, it's pretty swift. You have 15 turns to complete your whole agenda, so it moves